This is video number 2 in my converting to a midterm rental sequence. Let's take a look at the 4 models of midterm rentals and see which one of them might be the best for your property. So I'm going to go off screen so we can share. Hopefully you can see my presentation. Okay, 4 models of midterm rentals. You have a dividing line. You have a whole house rental, or you have a room by room or co-living rental. With a room by room, you can have room by room non-hybrid and room by room hybrid, and whole house hybrid and whole house non-hybrid. So what does that mean? When you have a non-hybrid method, it means that your minimum rental period is 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, and that is it. You're not going to accept anything less than that. But that means that if your room is, let's just say you have a booking in your room, and I'm talking about room by room or whole house. Let's just call it property. Let's just say you have a booking in your property from May till August, but then you have another booking from September to, let's just say, October, and then you have another booking from December to January, which means that you now have like 3 months that need to be somehow populated with tenants. Otherwise, you're just basically eating the cost of your mortgage, utilities, insurance, and taxes on that property. So that model is a possibility, but I would think that the best way to execute that model would be to make your room rentals more than 1 month, like minimum 3 months. The problem is that there are fewer people interested in renting a room or a property, furnished room or a property for minimum 3 months than there are people who are willing to rent it for minimum of 1 month or 2 months. So the higher is your requirement for a longer stay, the fewer people will qualify for your property period. Therefore, you might end up with periods where you do not have a tenant and you have to basically carry the entire cost of the property without having any rent. Now, that is a problem with a strict non-hybrid model. What is a hybrid model? A hybrid model means that your preference is to have your rooms rented a minimum of 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. But when you have a gap in bookings, let's just say you have nothing between July and August or July and September, you fill that gap with shorter term stays. Means people can book for 2 weeks minimum or for 1 month minimum or 1 week minimum. You're going to quickly fill your room or your property, your house with tenants, but at the same time, now you have a much more intense process of managing check-ins, check-outs, managing the people who want to stay for 1 month or for 2 weeks are more likely to expect you to provide paper towels and dishwashing liquid and some kind of free coffee, etc. You will need to figure out how to manage all of those demands, especially if you're not immediately in the area. Okay, so room by room rental is exactly how it sounds. If your house has 3 rooms, it means that each room will be rented to a different guest. And we don't call them tenants in this case, we call them guests. It will be rented to a different guest, which means that if you're doing this room by room model, you have an immediate ability to increase your income because each guest pays you more than one guest would pay for the entire house. But at the same time, you have 3 times the headache. Let's actually take a look at the pros and cons of room by room in co-living and what it actually entails. So as I mentioned, with the room by room living, you have, but let's just say you have a 3-bedroom property. It means that you have 3 guests. Each of those guests might be on a different schedule. Let's just say one guest is a nurse working nights and another guest is a student who's up and about at early hours in the morning playing music or playing TV. And then you have potentially, if you're accepting couples, even having 3 rooms can be a total of 6 adults plus maybe a kid or 2, which means increased consumption of water, increased use of toilets, showers, kitchenettes, kitchens, etc. And as a result, you catering to 6 different adults, some of them might argue, some of them might have, you know, habits like playing music or smoking or whatever. You have a higher potential for conflict and also a higher demand on your management, and also the request for soap, shampoos, dishwashing liquid, laundry detergents, cleaning supplies, etc. All of this will be much higher when you have a room by room situation. However, on the bright side, if you have properties in certain locations, such as maybe downtown, closer to universities, closer to hospitals, closer to any kind of locations where people actually come by themselves. So, for example, I have a room by room rental in Mesquite, and I have a ton of people who come to Dallas for training. They're by themselves, they don't have a family. They do not like the idea of staying for 4 months in a hotel. They want to have some kind of a sense of normality where they have a kitchen and a living room and a backyard for their pet. These kind of people are willing to pay premium even above prices of the hotel, and the demand is quite strong. My rooms are pretty much fully booked with traveling professionals, people on training, people who are finishing up their studies or something, and they no longer stay at whatever they are. They need a few more months to stay to finish their studies or whatever. So my rooms are constantly busy. I have almost no vacancies. So the demand in my properties in Mesquite, the demand in certain areas, if you're within the property of W, is very strong. I would say that the demand for rooms is probably stronger, in my personal observation, than demand for the entire houses, simply because of the logistics of people who need short-term stays. Unless people, because families, entire families, let's just say mom, dad, grandma, and 3 kids who need a short-term stay, there are fewer situations in which they need a short-term stay than somebody who's by themselves. So the demand is higher for room by room rentals, in my opinion, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area than it is for whole home rentals on midterm basis. Now, another problem to mention is pet compatibility. If you're going to allow pets, imagine a situation where you have a cat in one room, a dog in another room, and a person who is allergic to either cats or dogs in the third room. And tenants can be incompatible. So if you have a room by room rental, just be aware that you do not always have a perfect match based on many factors, including personalities. Some people might be very outgoing and some people might be less outgoing, and you have also allergies. If one room has pets and another room has people who are allergic to dogs or cats, you're going to choose which one of those tenants you want to maintain. And also schedule. If you have as I mentioned before, somebody who's staying there because she's a nurse and she works nights and she needs her sleep during the day. And then you have a student who is coming home early from school at 2 o'clock and playing loud music or playing loud TV for the rest of the day. You're just not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to maintain both. You'll need to choose between one of those tenants. The whole house rental. So the whole house means that, let's just say you have a 3 bedroom home, the entire house is rented at once. You have a higher vacancy, which means that, let's just say that one of your tenants was a couple who with their kids who are relocating to the area, and they need a place for 2-3 months while they're shopping for a house. And then after they left, within 2 months, you have another tenant coming in who is, let's just say, another relocator to the area. What are you going to do with your house for the 2 months where you have no tenants? You either need to switch to a hybrid system where you accept shorter term stays, but there are not that many people who need an entire family there for just 1 month, although there are situations. Long story short, you will have higher vacancy, and as a result of a higher vacancy, overall for the period of 12 months, you may have a lower profit than a co-living room by room rental, even counting for the management expenses. Cancellations. Let's just say that you have a house booking that is from July till November for a for a family who want to stay in the area while searching for a home to buy. And then let's just say they moved in July, and then within 2 weeks they canceled their stay. They said that for whatever reason things changed. Now you need to find another tenant on a very short notice for the 3-bedroom house. So instead of having a 2 months vacancy in a year like you planned, you might end up with 3 or 4 months vacancy in a year. And what will this do to your yearly profits? And also, when you have multiple tenants in your property, let's just say room by room rental, chances of misuse of your property are lower because tenants tend to report on one another. So if you have a guest in room A telling you that somebody is smoking inside of room B, you can quickly address that situation. When you have when you have an entire house rented by the same family or same company or same contractor, suddenly you might move, once they move out, you might find out that they were smoking pot heavily for the last 3 months, and the whole house now needs to be needs to have remediation performed in order to get the stink out of the house, and you didn't know about it for 3 months. So the likelihood of misuse is much higher. And also, if you have a pool or sauna or any kind of amenities like that, chances of it becoming a party house are much higher. Now, on a positive side, you do have a much lower cost of management and utilities and supplies, because typically when you have a room by room rental, each room might have 2 adults. Each one of those adults may also have a pet, and you have all of those people taking showers, cooking, utilizing AC, turning on space heaters all at the same time. So obviously, you're going to have higher utility costs with room by room and lower utility cost with whole house rentals. So both management and utilities and supplies are come at a much lower cost with a whole house rental. On the negative side, with a room by room rental, you always have, even if you have 3 rooms and one of those rooms is vacant, the other 2 rooms are very likely producing enough income to pay for your mortgage, if nothing else, and utilities, maybe not much profit, but at the very least, mortgage and utilities are covered. When you have a whole house rental, imagine if you have a 2 months vacancy, then another couple moved in, and then within 3 weeks they cancel, and now you have another 2 months of unexpected vacancy. Will you have enough funds to pay for the mortgage during a 4 months vacancy, for example, without switching to a hybrid model? You need to consider having a large pool of savings to accommodate those kind of situations. And then also harder to calculate deposits. So in a room by room rental, when you have multiple renters staying in your house, the deposits could be smaller because the chances of them completely ruining your bathroom or completely ruining your kitchen without you knowing about it very quickly are very slim. Typically, in a room by room rental, any kind of damage, even the slightest one, gets quickly reported by the tenants. Therefore, your ability to address those kind of issues are immediate, and the only damage that they could truly do is maybe the furniture inside one of the rooms. In a whole house rental, you may walk in at the end of your rental to find out that your couches have been completely torn up by pets. The entire living room set is destroyed. The kids, really destroyed the carpets. The kids really destroyed the doors. The kitchen sinks are not working. The cabinets are missing doors, and all kind of other damage to the property, garage doors not working, and you didn't know about it for months. So from that standpoint, because you do have furniture in a house and that furniture costs you money, it can be a little bit challenging to calculate the deposit for those. Obviously, you do not want to go over 1 month's deposit, but it hardly covers the cost of the furniture, like replacing a leather living room set might take 20, $8,000-$10,000. It is unlikely you're going to have the deposit large enough to cover those costs. So calculating the deposit on the whole house rental, in my opinion, is a little bit challenging. So what is the hybrid method? The hybrid method means that let's just say that you have, let's just say that you have a whole house with 3 bedrooms and you have a vacancy of 2 months. You can fill that vacancy with shorter term stays, let's just say minimum 2-week stays or minimum 1-week stays. And this way you can recover at least partially the cost of your mortgage, utilities, and etc. But that also comes with some additional expenses. So lower vacancy will bring higher profit for both co-living and whole home rentals. And also what I find is interesting is that hybrid method tends to introduce people who would not otherwise choose your property. So in my property in Mesquite, I have had a couple of renters who initially booked their room for just 6 days or 10 days because they were in a short-term stay. But then after the end of their short-term stay, they told me that their company made them an offer and they're planning to relocate to the Dallas-Fort Worth area for a longer period of time. And even without terminating their current lease, they already extended for another 3 months. So that was, if I did not have that 1-week stay with them, where they looked at the property, they got a feel of the other tenants in the property, and they got a feel of the area, maybe they would never have booked my property, and I would have never been able to capitalize on that relationship. So a shorter term stay tends to bring people who are coming in maybe for a training or maybe coming in for a short-term introduction to their company, but then they will potentially extend their lease for several months as a way of relocating to the area. So that's another really big benefit of a hybrid method. Now, on a downside, on the minuses, you do, let's just say that you have a 6-month stay and then followed by 3 short 1-week stays. It means that you need to be prepared for very low maintenance and cleaning supplies during the 6 months, and then high intensity maintenance and high intensity cleaning for the next 2-3 weeks. And you need to have the cleaning crews and the ability to manage all of those items if you're not in the area, if you're not doing the cleaning yourself. Also, you have to have hands-on management skill, which means that people will be checking in, checking out. You might only have like half a day or a day between the check-in and check-out to get the property ready. It means that you might have like 5 or 6 backup cleaning people, 1 or 2 backup maintenance people, that no matter when are the check-in and check-out times, you can quickly bring a whole crew together within a few short hours or within 1 day. All the damage, all the furniture damage, all of the dirty, spots in the house are being addressed, and the room is spotless and ready for the next tenant. Pet costs. If you have a tenant who's staying at your property for 6 months and they have a dog, you take the deposit for, let's just say, $300 or $500, and that's enough to cover the potential pet damage because it's the same pet. You're not going to have 5 or 6 different types of pets. When you have a hybrid method, imagine that you have 3 different guests occupying your property for only 1 week or 2 weeks, and they have a pet. Now, the damage in 1 week could be the exact same damage cost in 3 months by a pet. But can you take a $500 deposit on a 1-week stay for a pet? It is unlikely. So the pet cost for shorter term stays can be quite high. And also, once the tenant checks out, you need to do, you do not want to leave the house or the room with pet hair laying in on a bed or under the furniture because your next guest could be allergic. Therefore, you need, after each stay with a pet, you basically need to carry the furniture out of the room, clean under it. Hopefully you don't have carpets, hopefully you have hard floors. Clean under all the furniture. The bedding and the mattresses are likely to be covered in hair. You need to be able to potentially even throw away some bedding supplies and buy a completely brand new set. Just because once you wash that bedding in a washer and dryer on the property, you might continue to have pet hair for the remainder of the next 2 to 3 months on everybody's clothes and everybody's linens. So for that reason, it might be sometimes more beneficial to throw away heavily covered in pet hair items than to try to wash them. So the pet costs are much higher for short-term stays. And then cleaning supplies and the cost of supplies and the cost of cleaning is much higher because every time you clean the entire room or the entire house, you're using up quite a bit of supplies just to bring the property to proper order. Okay, my name is Elena Garrett. This was a shortcut introduction on a hybrid versus non-hybrid, room by room versus whole house stay for midterm rentals. If you have any questions, this is how to contact me. I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so I will be able to tell you the midterm rental property management in general. But if you have a property in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I might be able to give you extremely detailed points on where and how to acquire your properties. Alrighty, thank you so much, and I will see you at the next video.